Maria Cardona, welcome back to Mea Culpa. Great to have you. So much going on. I mean, so much going on. So never ending, so little time to discuss it. Let me jump right into it.
Yeah.
So President Trump recently claimed credit for the release of the 20 Israeli hostages, framing it, of course, as a significant diplomatic achievement. By the way, just to be crystal clear, I'm impressed. However, there are a lot of experts that are cautioning that this ceasefire may be just merely temporary, that it is not a peace plan, it is a ceasefire, and that challenges remain, such as disarming Hamas and Gaza's complete reconstruction. What's your assessment of Trump's role in this development?
I think we need to give credit where credit is due. I think he does deserve credit for making the ceasefire happen and for conditioning the environment sort of at the final end, if you will, the final lap, to make sure that Hamas hands over the rest of the hostages and that Israel is willing to do what they need to do, pull back the IDF, hand over the Palestinian prisoners that they had, so that this part of it could happen. Where I think there is a danger is that Trump is claiming the end of the war is over, that this is going to make that, you know, a new dawn of the Middle East, which we all hope, right? Ultimately that it is.
Oh, yeah.
But, right? Experts and people who understand this region say, whoa, wait a minute. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. And what I've been saying is that now is when the hard work really begins to make sure that that 20-point plan is feasible. And right now, many parts of it don't seem to be very feasible because no one believes that Hamas is going to unarm itself. No one believes that they're going to completely give up power. And no one believes that if they don't do that, that Israel and Netanyahu aren't going to, at some point, start something again with them. And so this is still a tinderbox. And I think for Donald Trump to be so complete in his mission accomplished, maybe this is his mission accomplished moment, right? And then have that be so volatile still that something is going to happen. I just think it's going to really blow back badly on him and Republicans. And so I think he needed to approach this with a lot more caution than what he is. The reconstruction of Gaza, that's not going to be easy. What is that going to look like?
You're talking about 170 square miles where 70% of the buildings in that region, in the entire Gaza, in the entire West Bank, are destroyed.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to come in with a multi-pronged approach.
Exactly.
Schools, supermarkets, bathrooms and showers and so on. I mean, you know, people are living there and it's basically impossible. But I'll tell you something. Early this morning, while I was doing some research for my Substack article, came across a different article and I was trying to find it again. I haven't been successful because I wanted to talk to you about it to see whether you saw this. I read in this article that Hamas has already started publicly executing Palestinians in Gaza in order to demonstrate that they are still in power. That they are withholding much of the aid, the food that and aid that is coming in right now at 400 plus trucks a day, that they're basically seizing them again in order to demonstrate that they're not going anywhere. And this is the danger because this is not a GOP success. This is not even a Donald Trump success. Though I do have to say, and I'm going to tell you a funny story after about Trump, me, Ike Perlmutter, and Henry Kissinger. Oh. That was one of the most incredible moments of my life. But they are already declaring that this meeting in Egypt was something much bigger than it was. And like you, I fear this is a success for the world. If Trump could bring something like this, right, where there is Middle Eastern peace and the bloodshed stops across the entire region, that countries like Saudi and the Emiratis and Bahrain and Jordan and Egypt and Syria and they could Lebanon, and they can all just everybody get along and become economic powers of thought and production and so on. That would just be amazing for the world. We would start instead not fighting about or taking hostages. They would all be fighting over AI.
Right. Exactly. You know, would that could be what is in the near future and for the long term. Sadly, I don't think that it is. I mean, we all hope it will be, but to your point, and I didn't see that article, but everyone understands that Hamas is not going to give up power that easily. They are not going to put down their arms that easily. They are not going to just say, okay, we're out of here. We're not going to have anything to do with governing Gaza or with the kind of power structure that we have enjoyed thus far. I think that is too easy to hope for. And so again, I think that Donald Trump got over his skis a little bit in declaring that this was the new dawn of the Middle East, because there is still a lot of hard work ahead of us. And if that article is true, and I hope that it isn't, that's going to be the beginning of this unraveling. And so I think that people need to focus now on what comes next. And I do think that all of the Arab allies need to be involved in this.
I just found the article. It's in ynetnews.com. Okay. I don't know anything, but it is written by an Inav Halabi. Hours after hostage release, Hamas terrorists publicly execute militia members in Gaza. The executions came shortly after U.S. President Donald Trump said during his flight to Israel on Air Force One that he had given Hamas approval to manage internal security in Gaza as it sees fit. Now, I'm not sure I ever heard Trump say anything like that, but hours after the release of the Israeli hostages, Hamas terrorists executed several people in Gaza on Monday evening, accusing them of collaborating with Israel or being linked to ongoing internal fighting between the terror group, local clans, and militias. This, by the way, is according to Palestinian sources and videos that are circulating on social media.
Oh my goodness, Michael!
And this is why everybody says, "Will it hold?" I have not seen, nor have I heard this information come out on mainstream or cable news. But this, I knew I came across something. I only hope to God that it's not true, though. There's about 7 or 8 news sources that are saying the same thing. But, you know, the story I wanted to tell you, interesting, and I really want to get you it was one of the most incredible experiences. I get a phone call, Michael, Mr. Trump would like to see you. So I go straight to his office. Sitting there is Ike Perlmutter and Henry Kissinger. Now, Ike I've known forever, and Henry Kissinger, I know who he is forever. And Trump says, Michael, here, sit down. You're going to like this conversation. They're your people. I said, okay, sure. They start discussing Middle East. Now, mind you, Trump had already become president-elect at that time. And they wanted to talk to him about how to handle Middle East and so on. Now, Henry Kissinger, the consummate statesman, Ike is, of course, Israeli by birth. They turn around and they talk about how difficult, if not impossible, doing anything in the Middle East will be. That is just, it's in thousands of years that nothing could possibly happen. And after about 45, 50 minutes, I just remember, because Trump had his arms folded, he was sitting back, slouching in that big, that big chair with the, red leather chair, and so on. And he turns around and he goes, no. He goes, I could fix this. I can actually, now mind you, you're talking to Henry Kissinger, for God's sakes, right? And he's like, I could do this. I could bring peace to the Middle East. It would be very simple. You just don't give anybody, and this is what he said word for word, you don't give anyone any options. You basically guide them in what you want them to do. And Henry Kissinger looked at him, and he was even old in those days, right? He was in his 90s. body didn't work so good, but the brain was as sharp as a tack. And he
Right.
goes, Donald, it's not going to be that easy. And so just like that. And Ike turns around and said, he goes, Donald, let me be very clear. He goes, I don't see it. And so watching yesterday with the tears, and it crushed me. I wrote a Substack on the same thing. And I don't compare myself to anything that these people, these Israelis endured as hostages in captivity by Hamas. But I have an understanding about the freedom that one feels.
Taking away your freedom. Sure.
Especially I did 51 days of solitary confinement when you come out. 51 days, believe it or not, it's certainly not the 2 years that they did, but 51 days by yourself, all alone with your own thoughts.
You have a taste of it.
I understood a small taste of it, and I understand the experience and the crying that goes along with it, from family members. When you heard like that father wailing uncontrollable when he saw his son, if that didn't touch everybody's heart, there's something really, really wrong with you.
Absolutely. It would be impossible to not just have a flood of emotions watching that father, let out that scream, watching the other images. As a mother, my hair stood up on end. I welled up in tears. I'm doing it now as I'm recalling it, because you can't even understand. You don't even want to understand what these families went through, what these mothers and fathers went through in these last 2 years of torture. And these were the ones who were lucky enough to get their loved ones alive. Imagine the ones that had to go through the horrific torture and hell of their loved ones having died while they were in captivity. And so again, the moment, no one can take away that moment of unbelievable triumph of humanity and, having been able to get these hostages back. And Trump owns that, right?
Yeah, he does. I wrote in my Substack, and I love just to get you. I wrote, freedom isn't a switch you flip back on.
Right.
It's a slow, painful process of learning how to feel again, how to trust again, how to live without fear. I remember that day in 2020, the day I was released, and the tears that came with it. And as I cried again today, watching strangers come home from hell, I realized the truth that binds us, no matter how deep the darkness, coming home is always an act of courage.
Wow.
People don't realize what's going on inside you don't know whether to laugh, to cry, to faint. You don't, it's such an experience of emotion. 51 days of being locked in a cell, right? No movement at all. All you have is yourself, right? I can't imagine how they survive. I don't understand. I'm in awe, to be honest, of each and every one of them. And then the families too. People negate the pain that the family goes through. We must not. And we must never allow shit like this to ever, ever happen again.
Absolutely.
It's like why I was constantly fighting and saying they put me in 51 days of solitary. Forget about the 13 months that I was already away from my family. 51 days of solitary. Why? Because I refused to sign a fake document not to publish a book. And that's why I fight all the time, in order to make sure that what they did to me never happens to anyone else again. Well, you know what? I assure you, as there are books coming out about the hostages and their experiences, their hope is that the world never allows anything like this to happen to anyone, regardless if it's Israeli, Iranian, Russian, Ukrainian. Enough. Right. Enough. This mental torture has to come to an end.
That's exactly right. And we talk about how now for the leaders in the region, for the United States, for, everyone involved in the peace process, the hard work begins now. Well, there's hard work ahead for these families too, and these newly released hostages, because to your point, you can't just turn on the switch and be normal again, right? I mean, the nightmares, the psychological trauma, that all has to be dealt with. And that is not something that is dealt with in the short term. And so this is going to be a long haul for these families to get back to the place where they can trust again, to your point, right? They can have some kind of normalcy, but right, for the moment, I love that they are reveling in the happiness and the freedom that they now have to be in each other's arms, to be in each other's company. And to your point, that is something that we all need to cherish, and we all need to do everything in our power to make sure that that never happens again. But part of that is understanding the reality of what's ahead. And this is where I don't think Donald Trump understands this, or at least he's not acknowledging it. And I think in not acknowledging it, it's going to make it harder for that reality to come true.
So, which kind of brings me, it's a great segue to my next question, because in his Knesset speech, Trump emphasized several themes. How do you assess his approach to foreign policy in that address? Some people, of course, if you're a Trump MAGA fan, thought it was the most brilliant speech of all time, right? Others, if you're a detractor, you say to yourself, okay, we give him the credit. He deserves it. But the approach to foreign policy of being the dictator of the world, in essence, it just doesn't work.
Right. That's exactly right. It doesn't work. And, you know, I have heard some people describe his victory yesterday as being accidental, and not in a way that takes away the merit, right? They're giving him the merit, but accidental in that the way that he acts towards the world in terms of being the bully worked for him this time around in these very specific circumstances, right? Kind of like the way that a broken clock is right twice a day.
Sure.
Right. But that methodology of governance and of approaching foreign policy in today's global arena doesn't work, because it doesn't. I mean, this is not something, and you know, so many experts in foreign policy have said it. Generals have said it. Public policy experts have said it. Other world leaders have said it. They won't say it to his face for obvious reasons. And whenever they meet with him, they, you know, always are telling him how great he is, but we know why they do that. That's also very strategic on their part. Because if not, then, you know, who knows what he's going to do, fly off the handle and flat 200% tariff.
But, you know, there was a reason.
Start a war, who knows?
Yeah, but Maria, remember, there's a reason I told you that story with Perlmutter and Henry Kissinger. Henry Kissinger told Trump that what you're asking, what you're saying is an impossibility. Yesterday, it's interesting, right? There are many people that they won't give Trump credit if he came up with the cure for cancer tomorrow, right? They just will not give him any credit for anything. I have been attacked by even people on my own social media where I turned around and said, you know what? This is a great day. Not just, it's a great day for Donald Trump. It's a great day for America, because what it did is it showed what America is capable of doing when we are center stage. But there, we are far from right now a peace policy, right? Or a peace plan. Right now, we're still in that ceasefire stage. Though, again, what he did, I think all of these geniuses on television with their fancy titles in the bottom of the chyron, not a single one of them could have pulled this off. It's actually Trump's style that managed to get everybody together, except for Bibi. For whatever reason, he decided to bail out, but everybody else was there. And Bibi will be there the next time because Trump will mandate it. That, to me, is interesting. I want to jump to a different topic for a second on voting rights, because there's a Voting Rights Act right now that's before the Supreme Court.
The Supreme Court, right?
And there's this, they are facing a pivotal test right now. what are the potential implications if the court weakens or overturns key provisions?
I think they would be incredibly nefarious if that happens, because the Voting Rights Act has already been substantially weakened by the Supreme Court. And we have seen it in so many instances across the states. And that's the last thing we need right now, when we are seeing the Republican Party already take advantage of this mandate that Trump, has told his Republican Party that he wants everyone to gerrymander the maps as much as they can to steal seats from the Democrats, write maps that will ensure there are more Republican seats, because I think he's terrified about what he knows what's coming in the midterm elections next year, because his poll numbers are in the toilet on the economy, on immigration.
By the way, so are ours.
Yes,
so are Democrats.
Correct. But the big difference is that you have been seeing in special election after special election, Democrats are winning and massively overperforming in the ones that we don't win. And so I think that what you're seeing is Trump's poll numbers are going to be attached to Republicans, because Republicans do nothing but genuflect at the altar of Donald Trump and do everything that he says. And Democrats are running their own campaigns based on what their voters need in each district and each state. So they are running based on candidates. The Republican Party right now is running based on Trump. And so I think they're the ones who are going to be sunk by Trump's bad poll numbers, while our folks, because we don't have like one, leader that everyone is following, which I think at this point is a good thing for the Democrats. Everyone is focused on every specific candidate or member of Congress or member of the Senate, member of the House that is running to speak to the needs of their own voters. And I think that's going to be a strength for the party right now, the way that it has been in all of these special elections that we've been winning.
See, I'll tell you where I'm concerned. I watched on CNN, Harry Enton was doing one of his smartboard playbooks. And in it, there were 5 different topics: the economy, immigration, crime, right? Employment, and then the other was healthcare. Healthcare was number 1. There's nothing like a health scare in the family to slap you across the face with reality. A buddy of mine passed unexpectedly just a few weeks ago. No plan, no insurance, and his family was left scrambling just to keep the lights on. And I thought to myself, if that happened to me, what the hell would my family do? And that's when I realized protecting your family's future, it's not just smart. It gives you peace of mind so you can actually live in the present. Because the truth is, being a breadwinner means if you're gone, so's the paycheck. Mortgage, tuition, bills, they don't just disappear. And here's the good part. Ethos is an online platform that makes getting life insurance fast and easy to protect your family's future in minutes, not months. No complicated process, no medical exam, just a few health questions, and you can get a quote in as little as 10 minutes. Same-day coverage without even leaving your house. I mean, some policies are as low as $2 a day. As of March 2025, Business Insider even named Ethos the #1 no medical exam instant life insurance provider. And 3 million families have already trusted Ethos to help them find the right coverage. So here's what you need to do. Protect your family with life insurance from Ethos. Get your free quote at ethos.com/Cohen. That's ethos.com/Cohen. Application times may vary. Rates may vary. Sample rate for a 10-year term life policy for 35-year-old healthy, non-smoking male. So don't wait. Tomorrow isn't promised, but you know what is? Peace of mind. Interestingly enough, the only one out of the 5 topics that Democrats were leading was number one, healthcare.
Healthcare. Yeah.
Healthcare, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to figure out, as a Democratic strategist, and I come to you all the time for advice on, what to do, how to do it, because that's your forte. Somewhere along the line, somebody has to explain to me. I don't care if you're the stupidest fucking MAGA 223 brain-celled idiot on the planet. I don't care. When you go to the store yourself, when you go to like the Walmart, the Costco, the Myers, whatever the big box store, you go to your grocery or you go to the sneaker store, everything costs more. When you go, we just came off of a summer. You go to the supermarket to buy hamburgers. You want to invite family and friends over, your next door neighbors. You can't do it anymore without taking out a loan. Right? You're talking about literally 28 to 30% higher in beef prices. You got your farmers who are sitting there with their hundreds of billions of bushels worth of soy to do what? Shove it up your ass? Serious. We fucked up the farmers with these stupid tariffs to China. So China said, America, Xi Jinping, he's not going to put up with Trump's shit because he's crazier than Trump. So he turns around and he said, fuck you. He went to Argentina, who we're bailing out right now. They're buying all the soy. Our farmers are left holding their schwanz in their hands. And next thing you know, it's like, I wonder how this happened. Why is this happening? I'm going to be able to get them to do what I want. No, you're not. In fact, what are we going to do? Now bail out the farmers? But then again, I thought that the whole thing, these farmers don't want bailouts. They want to be able to work.
They want to sell their wares. They want to sell their crops.
Amen.
That's what they want to do. And they trusted Donald Trump, and the non-MAGA voters who voted for Donald Trump, which is the reason why he won, right? Way too many African Americans, way too many Hispanics did that. They did it because they trusted him on the economy. They trusted him when he said that he would bring down the costs of groceries, gas, and rent. They trusted him when he said he would bring down inflation. And in fact, everything that he has done, Michael, has exploded the costs of groceries, gas, and rent. Have exploded inflation.
But based on this Reuters Ipsos poll that Harry Enton was referring to, GOP is still leading in those areas. The economy, right? But immigration. Explain that one to me.
Well, but if you look at Donald Trump's numbers on the economy, they're completely upside down. If you look at Donald Trump's numbers on immigration, they're completely upside down. And if you look at the generic ballot, and Harry Enton did a whole thing on this as well, Democrats are leading anywhere from 3 points to 9 points on the generic ballot for next year, Michael. This is why I'm telling you that it is all about the candidates for us. It is all about the individual candidates. And we know they are very good at putting up shitty candidates, which is something that has always gone in our favor. And right now, what I'm seeing from the Democratic Party after many months of frustration at the beginning of this year, they are all now standing unified and speaking out really strongly in opposition to Donald Trump and everything that the Republicans are trying to do on the economy, on immigration, these horrific ICE raids where they are attacking Americans, snatching people off the streets.
Crazy.
Right? The images are horrific, and
Maria, the guy,
that's not what we voted for.
Maria, the guy who did Latinos for Trump, he's in an ICE facility right now. This idiot, right? How crazy is that? He was one of the guys that was an initial founder of Latinos for Trump. He was out there getting people, going to schools and communities and talking to them. Guess what? He's now in an ICE facility himself, awaiting deportation. I mean, talk about irony.
Yeah. Yeah. And so what they are seeing, and what Democrats are going to continue to underscore, is that Donald Trump and Republicans have betrayed you. They promised you that they would bring down the cost of groceries, gas, and rent. They promised you that they would bring down inflation, and they have betrayed you. And this shutdown, to your point on healthcare, is absolutely allowing Democrats to focus on that one issue where we have a huge advantage, because it is showing which party, Michael, is the one that is actually standing up for Americans' lives and livelihoods. And while people might have a big separation between healthcare and the economy, as you know, if you can't pay for healthcare, your personal economy is going to shit.
Yep.
So the two are inextricably linked. So at the end of the day, I do believe that Democrats are going to win the argument on the economy because of healthcare and because we can point out the massive betrayal from Donald Trump and Republicans on the costs of groceries, gas and rent, energy prices, inflation, eggs, meat, all of it.
We just need stronger mouthpieces. And those mouthpieces, like myself, don't even have to be in public office. They just have to be like somebody who talks just like you, not like the Hakeem Jeffries with the fake rage, or Chuck Schumer with his hand pounding, half asleep, slurring his words. They're not going to be getting, by the way, it's not AOC.
Tell us how you really feel, Michael.
I will tell you, it's not AOC or Bernie Sanders either. By the way, it's not that I have a disdain for any of the four of them. I actually happen to think they're all very decent people. They are. The only difference, wrong messenger for this message right now. You don't fight a bully, right, who has brass knuckles on with boxing gloves. All right. You could be the best boxer there. All he has to do is land one lucky punch and you get hit in the face with brass knuckles. You're going down. That's the whole point. They don't have anybody that's out there. Josh Shapiro does a pretty decent job now and then. You have, I'll tell you, Jasmine Crockett off the chart. I mean, she's like, she comes to a fight with those brass knuckles. And she
is fantastic. I agree.
I think her
Gavin
messaging
Newsom's
is
doing well.
Gavin Newsom, unfortunately, I see it a little bit different. I find he's more like a troll addict on X, right? Where you're not going to beat Trump by out trolling him.
No, but you know what, Michael? He is gaining attention, and this is what I think you're talking about. And this is where I said earlier, I think it's okay that Democrats don't have one leader or two leaders that are the ones that are like, gaining all of the attention and leading the party where it needs to go. Because we're not going to have that, by the way, until we have a nominee. And that's okay. I think we need to celebrate each and every leader that steps up to the plate, that is fearless, like a Jasmine Crockett.
But
frankly, in his own way, Gavin Newsom as well. Gavin Newsom is bugging the shit out of Donald Trump. And how beautiful is that, right?
Yeah. I mean, if you get off on, Trump getting angry from a nasty meme or a tweet, and so sure, but that does not set the message up. I believe we do need a handful of leaders that are out there and beating down not just the GOP, because this isn't about Donald Trump. He's not on the ballot, right? It's beating down and showing why we're better. We do not have, with all of our leadership. J.B. Pritzker, great guy. Newsom, great guy, right? Jasmine Crockett, phenomenal, Congresswoman. You got all of these. You got Josh Shapiro. You got a lot of really good Democrats. But the saddest part? Not one of them is on the same message as the other. So you get bombarded by 5 great speakers, right? But they're 5 completely different messages. J.B. Pritzker's talking about Chicago. You have Gavin Newsom's talking about California, right? It's like every single one. We need to do what the Republicans do, and they do so well. Message 1, GOP betrayed you. Plain and simple. 3-word simplistic messages. Tariffs are taxes. Consumers pay tariffs. If you ran on just those 9 words, stick them on fucking bumper stickers. Put them on the tops of hats.
Everywhere, right?
T-shirts everywhere, right? GOP betrayed you. And so when you go to that grocery store and you come out with half a shopping bag instead of a full shopping bag, and your kid asks you, how come I'm splitting my steak with my sister, right? And you turn around and you're like, because that's all I could afford.
Because
All right?
Donald Trump betrayed us.
Amen. Right?
Mhm.
So let me jump into, since we were talking about J.B. Pritzker in Chicago, recent deployment of ICE agents in Chicago, sparking significant debate. You got Governor Pritzker and Mayor Lightfoot expressing their strong opposition. We don't want them there. We don't need them there.
Right.
What's the core concerns driving their reactions?
So I think the core concern is that what Trump is doing through the Department of Homeland Security in having ICE deployed into these communities, and then on top of that, the National Guard, that they are actually the ones that are inciting the violence, right? These communities are not war-torn. These communities are not savaged by crime. We all want crime to be non-existent. We all want for there to be less crime in our communities. But the fact of the matter is that crime has been going down in a lot of these cities. And frankly, if Republicans were serious about continuing to reduce crime, they would actually work with the leaders of those communities to focus on giving them the resources that they need. More police, more budgets for, community programs, more budgets for education. We all know what works, right? What Donald Trump is doing is not working for the issue that he says it is. What it is doing, Michael, I believe, is he's trying to condition the environment for when there is incitement of violence for him to say, see, look at what is going on there. I need to bring in the National Guard. And ultimately, here's what terrifies me and a lot of people. You saw Pete Hegseth's speech to the Pentagon, right?
Yeah.
These two things are not unrelated. I think he and their ultimate goal is for Americans to be okay with the military coming into our communities. Once they say Chicago is violent, California is violent, Washington, D.C. is violent, Portland is violent, we need the military to come in and quell that violence. And it wouldn't be a surprise if that happens around the midterm elections. And this is what a lot of people are very concerned with. And that is the reason why they are laying the groundwork for people to get used to the National Guard being in our streets. For, Donald Trump even said it. Maybe these cities should be the training ground for our military. I mean, come on, Michael. We all need to be very concerned about this. And it is something that Americans need to understand is a possibility. I think that's why you're seeing so much excitement about the No Kings protests that are happening this weekend, and that Donald Trump and the administration is now attacking these protests as being terrorists, Antifa inspired, paid protesters by George Soros, all of the shit that they love to throw our way when they see us being organized. And so all of these things are very connected. And that is why J.B. Pritzker and Gavin Newsom are so focused on making sure that the American people know that the National Guard and the military are not needed in these cities, and that in fact, what Trump is trying to do is incite the violence, not be a remedy to it.
So since we're going to talk about this No Kings rally and so on, obviously the No Kings rallies, and there's supposed to be, 1,000 of them around the country.
I heard 2,000.
Yeah, I mean, this 2.0. I personally don't understand the folks that are running it. Let me ask you this. Have they asked you to speak?
No.
How stupid are they? No.
Oh, thank you.
Again, no. I'm being serious, not because I have you here and because I love you. No, I'm being legitimate. Who do they have that is speaking? Who's a Democratic strategist that understands this game better than you? I haven't heard from No Kings. Nope. Neither has Lev Parnas. Neither has Malcolm Nance. Neither has Joe Walsh. Neither has any of the people who I speak to on a regular basis, who actually
That's
understand
a very,
what's
yeah,
going
that's a
on.
very good
So
point.
who's going to go sit
Yeah.
there and speak, right?
Yeah.
I have no clue. But
That's a
don't
good
you want to
question.
hear
I'm
from
going to go find
somebody
out.
who knows? But if you would, that would be great.
Yeah.
Because how stupid can you be? The guy who was at the center of the whole thing, and not just me. You got Lev Parnas as well. You got Malcolm Nance, a 40-year spy.
So many,
right?
so many.
You have
Yeah.
so many, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So here's my question, since we know the No Kings rallies have garnered serious attention, not just from Democrats and independents, but clearly from MAGA and from the GOP,
Right.
who are making all of these allegations. They're Antifa, they're protesters.
Yeah.
By the way, could get dangerous because they can
I
call
know.
the National
Exactly.
Guard out
It could
and say
lead to exactly what I just described.
Exactly. So here's my question I really want to ask you. How should the Democratic Party respond to the rise of these movements to effectively address the concerns of the base? Like what you just said. How do we keep ourselves safe by going there?
You know, that's a really good question. And it's one that kind of came close to home. And I know this has probably happened to you, Michael, but our house was swatted last weekend.
Not only mine, my parents too.
Yeah, you know, and so it's something where I didn't really think about my own safety much before this happened. And frankly, I have to say, when the horrific Charlie Kirk murder happened too, I was like, oh my God, it's like the first time that I you know, my stomach kind of dropped, and it's like, wow, anyone on either side who is in the public arena has a target on our back. And so to your point about the safety and going to these rallies, I think one of the key things that we have to ensure, obviously for ourselves, but we have to make sure that everyone around us, and that, you know, the organizers, I am hoping, are going to ensure this. I know they have said it. I have seen it, that it remains peaceful, because the moment that it doesn't, the other side is going to blame it on ours. And then that's going to be the spark that leads to the chain of events that I just described. And so this whole, like, approaching it from a peaceful standpoint has got to be something that we are very, very focused on, that we are, you know, unerring in that, to make sure that everything that we do is peaceful, and that and cannot be seen as an attack, cannot be seen as violent. That doesn't mean that we can't, you know, holler, yell, you know, say what we mean, take signs, videotape. We know that really bothers them. And, you know, obviously make ourselves known in terms of what we want to say and what we want to protest. Because it is the No Kings protest, it's kind of, we are driving it. This is sort of our turf. What I am afraid of is what and who are they going to send to try to incite our side, right? And this is what we need to be aware of, to make sure that we are in control of our own response to whatever it is they do. And again, people videotaping out there, it's the only way that we understand what's going on. It's what I think has really brought to light the horrific, unlawful, criminal nature of what ICE is doing. We all have to keep that in mind during these protests. Control the way that we approach it, and make sure that everything we do and say is nonviolent. And then, you know, make sure that we try to control whatever it is that they send our way too, which I think is the big unknown. And that does make me nervous.
So you talked about targets, right? Recent indictments of Comey, Tish James, John Bolton, Adam Schiff, according to reports and my prediction, have all raised questions about the legitimacy of these actions. Now, I take a little bit of a different standpoint than most Democrats on it. I've been very vocal, both on CNN, MSNBC, and in my Substacks. What's your assessment of the legal and the political motivations behind these indictments?
Oh, it's purely his going down his enemies list and checking them off. You know, Kamala Harris was right. That's exactly what he's doing. He's sitting in the Oval Office, checking off his enemies list. And what has been so interesting to me, Michael, is that, and we all knew this, but he is always saying the quiet part out loud. Very specifically, when he posted on his Truth Social, what should have been a private note to Pam Bondi, but essentially became public when he told her to go after James Comey, Letitia James, Adam Schiff, that it's about time that they look bad, that, you know, justice needs to be done. You have to do this, right?
Okay, can we just stop there for 1 second?
Yes.
Justice has to be done. Now, I will acknowledge everything that you're saying to be correct, that, you know, it's unconventional, right? It's, let's just say it's, you know, a far cry from the way Joe Biden managed the White House and so on. But that's Donald Trump. Everybody knows he doesn't let things go. And so he wants to see James Comey prosecuted for, and let's use Comey just to start as the example, right? He wants to see Comey prosecuted for lying to Congress, impeding the investigation, and the fake Russia investigation, aka the Russian hoax. I actually agree with Trump. I think James Comey's a fucking prick. All right. I believe that my entire debacle that took place in my life started with James Comey and was pushed by James Comey. James Comey fucked up Hillary Clinton.
Oh,
right?
No question about
twice.
that. You have no love lost here.
Nope. And then he fucked up, or he tried to fuck up Trump as well with the entire Russia hoax. You ever try launching a podcast with zero experience? Well, let me tell you, it's like being tossed into a cage match with a grizzly bear, blindfolded, wearing clown shoes. I mean, when I started Mea Culpa, I thought to myself, come on, how hard can this be? Well, script writing, logos, production schedules, ad deals, and don't even get me started on the tech setup. I mean, I felt like I was decoding the damn Matrix. If only I had Shopify when I launched this beast. Shopify is the platform behind millions of businesses across the globe, responsible for a whopping 10%, you hear me? 10% of all e-commerce in the United States. And my friends, that's not hype. That's a fact. From big names like Mattel and Gymshark to folks just getting their hustle off the ground, Shopify's got their back. I mean, you want a gorgeous online store? Shopify's got hundreds of sleek, ready-to-go templates that make you look like a design god. And AI tools? Yeah, they've got those too. Writing your product descriptions, jazzing up your images, maybe even making you sound smarter than you actually are. I mean, not naming names or anything, right? I mean, need a marketing squad? Shopify's built-in tools let you hit email, Instagram, TikTok, wherever your customers are scrolling or doom scrolling. And listen, Shopify handles it all. Inventory, returns, international shipping. I mean, they are the ride or die business partner that you never knew that you needed. So if you got a big idea or even a little one and you're ready to turn that dream into a reality, head over to shopify.com/Cohen. So if you want to see less carts being abandoned, it's time for you to head over to Shopify and sign up for your $1 per month trial and start selling today at shopify.com/Cohen. That's Shopify, SHOPIFY.com/Cohen. One more time, that's shopify.com/Cohen. When he received, for example, the Steele dossier, and about me, I only talk about myself in the Steele dossier as being the one who had more allegations raised against them than anyone, 11, none of which were true. Why then did he go ahead, give it to, for example, like Andrew Weissman, who then they started doing investigations, and after Weissman, it then went to Jeffrey Berman at the Southern District, simply to try to find something to crush Trump. James Comey is not the Boy Scout that he tries to make himself. And when they stand up, he and Tish James with those videos talking about, I will not bend. I will not. Let me be very clear. You don't have to bend. They're going to hit you in the back of your knees with a club to put you down on the floor, right? They could say whatever they want. James Comey, I believe, will ultimately be found guilty, as will, in my opinion,
You do?
Tish
You
James
think that?
and John. I believe all of these folks that Trump goes after. You know what he knows? He knows that everybody has something. To every single one of my listeners, I'm really proud to say we've turned more than 500 million downloads since I started Mea Culpa.
Congratulations,
I'm so
Michael.
thankful to everybody. Here's something Trump understands. He understands people better than almost anybody I've ever met in my entire life. And he knows that every single one of us, every one of us listening or watching this on the YouTube channel, every one of us knows that we have done something, that there's something in our lives that if government got their hands on it, could create an issue. Everybody knows there's a book about it called 5 Felonies a Day by Harvey Westgate and even Sidney Powell, I think, co-wrote it. Every single person, and I'm not asking you to turn around to say, oh, what is that thing? I'm not interested. But every person, if you're honest with yourself, knows that they've done something. Look at what he did, for example, to Fani Willis, right? Right? Look at what he's now done to Tish James. Look what he's going to end up doing to Adam Schiff with the mortgage fraud, or John Bolton. John Bolton took documents years ago under the Bush administration. Well, you know what, moron? You wrote about it in your book. Well, there's the answer. Go after him for that. Every one of these people are going to end up seeing accountability. Is it right? Is it fair? I don't know. Tish James turned around. She stood up, for example, on the world stage and said, no one is above the law. She is our chief, law enforcement officer. You didn't know that that's not going to be a primary, that's going to be a rental property? Come on.
So I disagree that they're going to be found guilty. I could totally be wrong, and I'm not a lawyer. You're a lawyer. But most legal experts that I've talked to don't believe that there's enough there in these cases for them to be found guilty. But we'll see, right? And to your point, we all knew this was what Donald Trump was going to do, that it's no secret. And on the issue of the Letitia James and mortgage fraud, though, I think this is really interesting. And I don't understand why people don't talk about this more, which is it has been widely reported that 2 or 3 of Trump's own cabinet officials, cabinet secretaries, I think it's Secretary Bessent, I think it's the Labor Secretary DeReamer, I think it's Ken Paxton, the Attorney General in Texas, have all been guilty of the exact same thing that Letitia James is accused of. This mortgage fraud thing where they claim that one of their properties is either a second house, but it ends up being an investment property.
You know the difference? They're not the ones under indictment right now.
Agree.
Remember this.
No, I agree. That's right. I agree.
That's my point. But that's my point. Every single person listening, every person alive, every person who was once alive have committed something that when government gets their hands on you, you're done. You're done. And Trump understands that because he's a studier of people. He may not be a studier of books. He's a studier of people.
Right.
So,
he also, and we criticize him for this, but this goes to sort of raw human nature. His vindictive nature, a lot of people love that. Yes. Because a lot of people have felt, and this is where I think he hit that nerve in the American electorate with people who have felt that they have been the target of vindictiveness in whatever way, shape, or form in their lives, even if that's politicians that they have never felt seen by, right? People that have felt left behind by, a Democratic Party who focused on trade agreements that never gave the workers what was promised to them, right? I mean, all of these things people have pent up resentment. And one of Donald Trump's gifts, dark gifts, I should say, is really tapping into that resentment. And I think this, going after Letitia James Coney, is part of that.
It sure is.
Human nature, you know, he is able to really touch the pulse of the darkest devils of our psyche.
It's the Bonnie and Clyde. It's the Bonnie and Clyde theory, right? Everybody wanted to see Bonnie and Clyde get away with it. Yeah, fuck the banks and so on, right? So look, the hour goes by, unfortunately, way too quick because I have a billion questions left. But I want to finish it asking you one final question here.
Sure.
Speaker Mike Johnson's refusal to reopen the House, despite the government shutdown, which is now a major bone of contention. What do you think is motivating this decision outside of course, what we already know, that the second that the House comes back to session, that they're going to put the Jeffrey Epstein file issue on the table. But I really would rather just understand about the government shutdown, why they think that this is a good approach and the long-term consequence if we don't open up like tomorrow.
You know, that's a really good question. And I have two theories. One is a very simple one, that they are doing Trump's bidding. They are doing what Trump wants. They don't have any other choice in their minds, which I think is just really cowardly on their end. And I think part of what we are seeing is Congress, the Republican Congress, ceding all of their power, all of the legislative branch power to the executive branch, which I think again was part of this bigger plan of Project 2025. But the other part of this, Michael, I think, is that I do think it has to do with the Epstein files. It has to do with not wanting to swear in Congresswoman Adelita Grijalva, because she will be the vote that will be the one that says, okay, we got to release these. And I think they're terrified of that. But I also think that it is, you know, they believe that in the past, the party that has been the one that has not given the votes to have the government open has been the one that has suffered politically by polls and by the American people blaming them. But what this Republican Party doesn't understand is that it has historically been the Democrats that have been the winners coming out of government shutdowns, because Democrats have been on the side of giving the American people programs that they need and have had before with that really affect their lives and livelihoods. And it's been Democrats that have stood up for those programs and the reason why other shutdowns have happened. And that's the same dynamic now. It's Democrats, the ones that want to have the extension of the Obamacare subsidies, as you know. Democrats are the ones that are fighting this big, horrible bill that strips Medicaid from 17 million Americans. And that's what Americans are seeing. That's why you have the polls showing that more people blame the Republicans. Plus, this is not, you know, a small thing. Republicans control everything. The House, the White House, and the Senate. And it has not been Democrats that have said, we don't want to come to the negotiating table. Donald Trump told Mike Johnson, we don't need Democrats. Don't negotiate with Democrats. So people understand that in order to have a bipartisan solution, you actually need to have both parties at the table. Right. And which party has been the one that reaches out to the others? It's been Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer that have asked for these meetings with Trump and the other leaders. They were never asked to the table. In fact, they were told not to be invited to the table. Americans see that. Americans are not stupid. And so I think Republicans are the ones who are suffering from the political backlash.
And hence that message needs to get out there, because there's still far too many people that don't understand it the way you just explained it. Maria, thank you so much for making us all a little smarter today.
Thank you so much, Michael.
Always.
My dear amigo, always great to be with you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.